I model upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. The blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathan Lanawa, Hashabath, Ba'shalawam, Tawada, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Taha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalms 121. Anya Harayim Mayanyam Ya Oh Haharayim Mayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Shaisha Shamayim Wa'arataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawum Shashamarka Hana La'a Yanawum Wala'a Yayashan Shashurama Yasharala Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalia I'll Yad Yam Yin Ya Yawamum Hashemash La'a Hakaya Wayarak La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamaria Makal Ra Yashama Napasha Yahweh Yashama Hawalakya Wawa'aya Ma'aitha Wa'ai Iwalam Bahasham Yahweh Shai Thawada Aman. Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Ba'ashem Yahushua Thawada Aman. Shema Yasharela, hear, O Israel. Shema Yasharela, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Akkad. Shema Yasharela, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Akkad. Shema Yasharela, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Akkad. Deuteronomy 6:4, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Chaya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwaka, Saba'a, Ratazawanka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashemayim, Latalanawa, Lakam, Yawum, Za, Wasalakwanawa, Kababathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathyanawa, Wala'a, Habiyanawa, O Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Marai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Waha'ala, Watha Parath, La'aiwalam, Aman. Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Ha'ashirah Matazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Lakah, Alahayim, Akaryim, Al-Panya. La'ah, Fa'aisha, Lakah, Pasol, Wala'ah, Fa'ibadam. La'ah, Alakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, La Shua. Zakar, Ath, Hayawam, Hashabath, La Kodashwa. Kabad, Abiyaka, Wa Amaka. La'ah, Tharatazak, La'ah, Sana'at, La'ah, Sagana, La'ah, Ta'ana, Shakur, La'ah, Takamad, Ko, Ashra, La Ra'ayaka, Aman. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor the stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Hashem Yahushua Tawara Aman. Yeshua be seated. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ashra, Natalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Tawara Aman. La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ath, Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, with Israel. Madwa upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakhuam, Abiyah, Wanara'a, Alayawan, Malak, Shal, Shemayim, Wa'arataza, Wakol, Dobayim, Kayayam, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Arawanawa, Ahabnawa, Hapala, Yawaitiza, Yahawashai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Ainka, Yasha'ala, Izarnawa, Bana, Wasap, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yum Yum, Aitha, Kayawamyum, Makwadam, Babakusha, Shalak, Mayaka'ala, Wahatazawadak, Alahayim la maganawa rapanawa washama alnawa ba'ikwa shalak haroka sho yahawashai lanawa lalamanawa rabim kakama thabawana wada'ith sho the baraka Bahasham Yahawasha Thawada Samyad Waiwalam Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you. Right now, like the days of old, please send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Netananawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakata Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Netananawa, Awo, Lara Awa. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us the ram song to call the people. Barakata Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Netananawa, Koran, Ha'ayo, La Korah, Ha'aim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakata Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Netananawa, Hashaman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha Allah. Shabbat, be seated. Bear with me 1 second, Israel. Let me just get this out. All right, shalom, shalom. Shah Shabbat to the brothers and sisters that's listening in on the teleconference, those that's watching on the live stream. Happy Sabbath. And shalom, peace to all the brothers and sisters throughout the nation of Israel on this Sabbath morning. Most High's will. We all are awakened in good spirits, feeling tawab, kind of cast away our burdens on the Sabbath day. All of the, worldly things, all your issues with work, all your troubles with family, that we can cast those aside and then come and rest assured to kind of cast away all, carnal thoughts, to come to elevate our minds on a spiritual level where we can come and worship before the Most High on His day. Again, shalom, shalom, and peace to all the brothers and sisters. For those who are new, those who are watching or received a notice to kind of check this out, check this link out. We are Hayasharala Kanas, which stands for the Congregation of Israel in Hebrew, right? We are the true original Hebrew Israelites that you read about in history, that you read about in the Bible. Those whose ancestors on their father's side, going back at least 3 generations, right? If you can trace your lineage at least back 3 generations on your father's side, not your mother, but the patriarchal lineage, 3 generations to those ancestors who are part of the transatlantic slave trade that went through North, Central, and South America, also throughout some parts of Europe, the Caribbean, and so forth and so on. Your ancestors, known as the so-called Negroes, right, that came from the western coast of Africa, that fled from the persecution and the massacring during the times of 70 AD, right? You're a part of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, right? I said a part because you also include those whose ancestors going at least 3 to 4 generations back on their father's side, whose ancestors are known as the so-called native indigenous Indians to the Canada, North and Central Americas, and South Americas, I should say, because it also stretched forth. We had some of our people that was up there in so-called Canada, as well as North America, Central America, and going further down. Also, those who are also known as the so-called Hispanics, right, classified or tagged or stamped with the name of being a Latin American, right? Those are what the colonials called you, but you are a part of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. That's what this congregation, that's what this church embodies, to bring out the truth according to history that aligns with the Bible as to who we are and as it pertains to our identity, as it pertains to the whole world's identity, as well as all of the history, the laws, the prophecies, fruits of the spirit, moral, civil, ceremonial, all of the things that encompasses what the Most High wants us to be doing, that traces back to the time of Adam in these last days, right? So this is what we use as a point of reference to now give a summation of who we are. We read through the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, as well as the hidden books known as the Apocrypha, right? This is what it looks like if you're new, right? You can purchase this online. You go on Amazon. You go to a local bookstore if you still have them in your neighborhoods, because I know most of them have closed down, right? So today is a Sabbath service. We will be going through the Old Testament, 1 Samuel chapters 2 and 3 for the Sabbath service lesson. But before we get into the Sabbath service lesson, what I wanted to do during the class this evening, during the Friday night class, we talked about loosely, well, not loosely, but a little bit in depth as it pertains to the doomsday clock, right? Went into on Thursday, Esau, or the so-called scientists, went into checking out where we stand now with the doomsday clock. So a brother asked a question last night as far as is this an actual clock, right? It is an actual so-called clock. It's not like a normal clock that has, that does it 24 hours, but it is something that they have that's in Chicago. So let me just share my screen real quick to get a bit of context here. See if I can do this. See if this works. I haven't done it this way before. It's not going to allow me to do it this way. Let's see if I can do it a different way. Okay, hopefully everyone's able to see this. So for those who are on the teleconference, most odds will, if you have access to the internet, you can go back and check this out um, online. But it's interesting, they got what appears to be a sister. But this is a clock that they have in Chicago. This so-called clock was invented in 1947 by what they now see, if you see in the back, the atomic scientist, right? And the atomic scientist said that they now use this clock to measure, right, world events that will be leading up to the doom of the earth or the world, right? So it is something that was man-made, but it really is taking into account all the events that's going on in the world that now might lead to a global doom of civilization, right? So they started doing this in 1947. So every year around this time in the month of January, they go and they reevaluate where we are in the world, right? As it pertains to, are we getting closer to so-called doom? So this is what this is the actual clock. Now I'm going to see if I could also get the different time points where they had different periods of what they were assessing, right? See if I could find that tab here. All right, let's see if this is it. All right, so hopefully everyone is able to see this. So now on this this chart here is the timeline, right? You go all the way back to 1947. So now it's supposed to now go to midnight. If you look in the bottom right hand corner, they started at 7 minutes to midnight back in 1947. So that's what they classified how critical the earth or the world was to now reaching doom or doomsday. And every year, they went every 2 years or several years, major events, they would do this and now reevaluate. Sometimes it would stay the same, other times it would change. So with critical events here, this page or website is tracking where it shifted. So you see from 7 minutes, it went to 3 minutes. And then when you go into where it says full statement, it's going to give you all the information of what they assessed, why it went 4 minutes closer to doom in 49, 2 minutes closer in 53, and then they pushed it back in 1960 because they felt the world was getting in a more better place. So as you see throughout the years, it has gone back and forth, shifted here and there. So now when we jump to right here in 1991, that was the largest shift right there. It says 17 minutes from midnight, right? That's the farthest it's been. And this was at the event, when you go into the history behind this, when the Cold War ended with Russia being a superpower. So this is where they had done that assessment and says, oh, we're in a much better place. We're now 17 minutes away, right? Now, when you look at 17 minutes away, it's not actual minutes and times and seconds, but it's just a figurative way of saying we are farther away from what we thought we were to coming to actual doom. So now if you come closer to where we are now, up here in 2021 and 2020, it says that it was at 100 seconds. So we know 2020 was the beginning of the pandemic, right? 2019, things was where they were, 2 minutes, and then it got to 100 seconds. So they shaved off some seconds in 2020, kept it the same in 2021. This is not updated. 2022, a couple days ago, they left it at 100 seconds, right? Because of course they're figuring that, things have kind of subsided. The brother brought out that places in Europe and like UK, they're now reducing the mask mandates where they don't have to go and wear masks out in publics in schools and things of that nature. So things is getting better. So it's in their assessment, but they didn't move or shift this clock to the right, meaning to get to that midnight hour where all hell's going to break loose and they have lost control and they can't account for any stability in the earth. Now, what we talked about last night is that this is spiritual. This is biblical, right? This is where we went into Revelations and we went into First Esdras. So I'm going to just revisit those two scriptures, especially for those who are new, who is not a part of the Friday night class, so that they can see what we're talking about, right? So this is what Esau the so-called atomic scientists and world, Albert Einstein and all these people factored into this type of thing here. But where did they get this from, right? So now let's go to Book of Revelations real quick, 12 and 12, and then we'll jump into the Apocrypha, First Ezra chapter 14. I'm sorry, I think chapter 7. All right, so this is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12, where it says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, meaning a short time to rule or to reign or to wreak havoc in the earth. So what we went through, we're not going to go through it now, get the precepts from others, but what we went through in the class this evening was that when you read about this devil is not talking about the spiritual entity Satan, right? It's speaking about a nation, a man that's in the earth, that's ruling over all the earth. Like you read about in Job 9:24, right? The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So when you read in verses 3 and verses 9, it lets you know that this is not talking about the spiritual entity Satan. It's talking about a nation of people that ruled and had different empires in the earth that are still wreaking havoc right now. And they know that they have but a short time left in their rulership. Hence that doomsday clock. Why would they now come up with this clock kind of getting to a point where they know it's coming to an end, right? Because the Spirit already showed them that in the Bible, right? They have these records too. They read these scriptures. They say, if you search the internet and you search online, you'll see some of these breakdowns, or either they listen to us or they get some of the information about different rulerships and different empires, and they post this on the websites. They post this on their pages. Some of the scholars would teach this in certain lectures and things. So they have some kind of an idea about the time we're living in. Don't let the carnal prognosticators and things fool you, thinking that, oh, we're going to go for another 1,000 years, or a comet is going to come in 3,000 years and destroy and blow this place up. All of that is fabricated because the Bible says otherwise, right? So this says that the devil is come down unto you, meaning wreaking havoc, not just on us, because it says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, meaning globally, right? They're now coming and trying to do different things to wreak havoc on the earth while they have their time in the spotlight, right? While they have their riches. Now, let's go to Second Ezra. Second Ezra chapter 7. I want to just go through these 3 or 4 scriptures that we went through last night, and then we can jump into the Sabbath service to put these things in context. So Second Ezra, my apologies, chapter 7 and verse 43. Second Ezra chapter 7:43 says, but the day of doom shall be the end of this time, right? That's what that's supposed to signify. The doomsday clock, right? So the Most High even has it in the spirit of this last reigning king that they know, or kingdom that they know doom is coming. Read again. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, not our time in rulership, but the end of this kingdom. It says, and the beginning of the immortality for to come, wherein corruption is past. So this time of corruption, evil, wickedness, sin that's being now pushed throughout the earth is going to come to an end, right? When? At the time when doom strikes. Right. And that's what they're trying to track. That's what they're trying to prevent. That's what the purpose of these so-called peace treaties have been popping up since the times of these 47, 48. Right. When Israel as a state became now the younger brother of so-called America. That's when now they had wreaked havoc with different wars. But knowing that they're getting closer and closer to the doom, they now want to go out there and make peace in the earth. But through policy, they wreak more havoc. They steal more land. They steal more resources. They make the nations impoverished, and they push their own agenda. So the Lord said this was going to be their own demise, right? Now let's jump to 14. Another great point that the Most High put in the scriptures, right? Second Esdras chapter 14 and verse 10. Second Esdras chapter 14, verse 10, right? It says, for the world has lost his youth and the times begin to wax old. It's not talking about the actual earth, as if the earth itself is so many years old that it's now about to die. It's not talking about that. It's talking about the times that we're living in, how man and sin has progressed throughout the ages, right? As time went on, the earth got wickeder and more sinful in their doings. In their dealings or doings. That's what this is talking about. Read again. For the world has lost his youth and the times begin to wax old. For the world is divided into 12 parts, right? So when you look at from the beginning up until doom, the Lord said all the major events that's now that the Lord has put down in prophecy that he and the angels are tracking is divided up into 12 parts. Right? Just like how you have that clock, you got 12 at the top of the hour, right? And then you go throughout the whole clock until you come back to 12. That's how the Lord has now divided up all the events that's supposed to happen. Not actual time, but the events and prophecies that are supposed to happen prior to Yahushua coming. It says, for the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part, right? So 10 parts and a half is gone out of the whole 12. So if you do measurements, you know that would mean if you're looking at an actual pie, that means you only have 1.5 of the pie left, right? Everything else is gone. Everything else, according to this time that Esdras was alive, back during the Persian and the Medes Empire, has now passed. Major events, the 1.5 that's left are the major events that the Most High had left to happen in the earth. That's what we're embarking on. That's why Esau has that doomsday clock, because he himself is measuring the time. That's why he knows he has a short time to live. He's seen what happened after the Persian and Medes Empire when the Greeks came in, right? That was the beginning of their empire. They're the last nation to rule. So everything that they've done throughout their empire is documented here in the Bible. Esdras, the Most High, went into very key details to mark all that Esau was going to do. When you go back and you read in Esdras, the 11th chapter, right? When you go into Esdras, the 11th chapter, the whole 11th chapter is going into the Roman Empire and what was going to happen beyond. This was the measure right here. With the feathers, the 12 feathers, the 12 Caesars of Rome. And then what will happen, what will come out of them in the future. So the Lord had already given it to us. And he advised us that we needed to go and measure the time so that we would know, have an idea of where we are within those 12 parts. All right. So this is what we need to realize. This is why when we go back to 2nd Esdras 14, I'm going to read on from verse 12 now. It says, and there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10th part. Now, therefore, set thine house in order and reprove thy people, comfort such as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption. The parts, we can't stop the parts from happening. That's the Most High's word. He put that in effect, right? What we do have control over is what the Most High just told Esdras there, to set your house in order. Get your mind right. Renounce corruption. Stop sin, right? Put on the Most High's law. Because if you don't, you're going to get caught up out there with those events that's happening. You're going to be swept up in it. So we have to make sure that we recognize what the Most High is now showing in this time, right? So we have 12 parts of a whole. 10.5 was done during the times of the Persians and the Medes. We're living in that last 1.5. We need to get ourselves together. All right. So I just wanted to touch on that loosely for those that probably was not in the class this evening. And just to remind and show, and it's funny, the brother just came in as far as for looking at that clock. All right. That's what it is up on the screen, and we'll talk about it probably after the service. All right. So now let's get into today's Sabbath service lesson. We're going to be in 1 Samuel, the second chapter. Right, 1 Samuel, the second chapter. So if you remember, back when we read the first chapter, Elkanah, the priest, had two wives, actually. One specifically, Hannah, was barren. She couldn't have any children. And the other wife, she was able to have children by Elkanah. And after a while, she began to, pick on Hannah, and it made her feel bad, right? So she, when she went up for the yearly sacrifice, made an oath that if the Most High was to bless her with a son, that she would dedicate that son to the Most High, right? So when we read in the end of the last chapter, Elkanah and his wife went back to where they dwelt. They had intercourse, and she was able to conceive, right? And now through the conception, of course, is the thanksgiving to the Most High for allowing that to happen. Now, it shows you throughout the Bible, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, there are times where, women had this on them. And we know that when you look in history sometimes, and through the Bible, that when a woman who wanted to have children with her husband and she couldn't do it because of the rest of the women, they sometimes got on her or picked at her, right? And it was a reproach unto them because you were not able to raise up seed. But from a male standpoint, when we read during the times in the book of Judges, sometimes the people kind of even gave them a little bit more encouragement and to say, listen, I'm the husband, and I'm like 12 sons. Like, why? What's wrong with me? Like, why can't you just enjoy being with me? But putting yourself into the mindset of a woman, sometimes this is what they want to do. They want to nest and raise seed and now give an inheritance to someone who can be an inheritor to her husband for the land and lots that was now given to them. So this is what happened in the first chapter. So now as we get into the second chapter, Sister Hannah is going to give praise and honor and thanks and glory to the Most High for now allowing her to conceive, right? So now, 1 Samuel chapter 2, we're going to read verse 1. It says, and Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoiceth in Yahweh, in the Lord. Mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation, right? So, when you're going through some things, sometimes you may be a little quiet, shy, embarrassed. You don't speak up, right? While everyone is now feeling joyful and loud and always out there making commotions, you kind of always in the tuck. You keep your mouth quiet because you feel that maybe the Most High is not dealing with you, or maybe it's something that's going on and you got to figure it out. So you're not as outgoing as normal. But now that this has happened, where her mouth was closed, it says now her mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, right? Even the sister wife that Elkanah had, her mouth now was enlarged over her, because when you read it in the previous chapter, she began to chide her as far as for not being able to conceive. Now she can go and praise and shout and say certain things to come back at her, right? It says, because I rejoice in thy salvation, right? So now you see that it's a good feeling when at one point you felt one way and then you come back and now you see things in a different light. Go to Genesis chapter 30. We went through this during a series with the book of Judges. I'm sorry, the book of Ruth. Go to Genesis chapter 30. And verse 1. So in Genesis chapter 30 and verse 1, it says, and when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, she envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die, right? So not only where do you have it where sometimes the other party can now, pick fun of or make certain comments and certain things to you, like Hagar and Sarah. But in this case, that spirit of envy and jealousness can come upon you, where you are now becoming a little bit angry and perturbed. So when Rachel saw her sister Leah was able to produce these seeds or children for her husband Jacob, she got envious and went and was like demanding that Jacob make sure that she could become impregnated or could conceive, right? Verse 2, and Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? Meaning, can I control conception, right? I don't have that power. Am I sitting in the seat of the Most High where I can do that? No, right? So he had to kind of temper her whole ambitions of what he was expected to do and couldn't do, right? But then eventually it happened. Jump down to verse 22. It said, and God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb. So after time and prayer, sometimes these things happen to test your spirit, test your patience, test your faith. So after a while, the Most High heard her prayer and remembered her, and then allowed her to conceive. Verse 23, and she conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach, the reproach amongst women, right? Because that was a normal, customary thing to do as a wife, was to raise up seed unto your husband, right? Didn't have to be that way all the time, because sometimes you had it where a woman didn't raise up seed, but it was customary. And then when you, especially if you're a young woman, if you couldn't do it, then you were looked at or viewed in a certain way or a certain light. But now when you go back to 1 Samuel chapter 2, Hannah felt some of those same reproaches, and now is feeling overjoyed because the Most High now heard her prayers and heard her petition and her oath that we read back before in chapter 1, and granted her to have seed, right? So now going back to 1 Samuel chapter 2, and we at verse 2, it says, there is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our power, right? So we don't have, there is nobody else that has a rock or a God like us, right? People like to say that the Most High God is a God of all. That's incorrect. He created all nations, but he has a favorite chosen nation that's above everyone else, and they're special unto him. He deals with Israel differently than he deals with anyone else. The other nations were not given the laws. They were not given that comfort or that protection by the Most High like it's done with Israel. So that's what Hannah knew, right? For it says, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our God, right? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. And then also go to the book of Joel. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 3. Manashah, if you can read that once you get it, Baba Kashan. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 3.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 3. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe he greatness unto our God.
Right. So he's making a proclamation pertaining to the Most High. We will publish the name of the Lord to all the earth within Israel, and then as well as the other nations also. Read.
Verse 4. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment. A power of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he.
Right. So he is the rock. He is the foundation. Right. And Yahushua is an extension of that foundation. That's why we classify him as the cornerstone. He's the cornerstone for us on the earth. Right. So the rock here is the Most High God, truth without iniquity. Right. Judges righteously with equity. Right. That's how the Lord deals with us as a people and has set us up above everyone else. So when you read throughout the Bible, the scriptures tell you that our rock is not like their rock, meaning their form of worship or gods that they have is not like ours, right? Jump down. Let's see if it's in this. Jump down to verse 31.
Verse 31. For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemy themselves being judged.
Right. So their rock is not like our rock, right? Even they lift themselves up as judges or gods or forms of leaders themselves. They don't have what we have. It's different, right? So now when you look at the scriptures as a whole, sometimes it's kind of difficult for people to comprehend. I know Mana Shah was talking about this in the class last night, where he was like, yeah, that was one of the things that, I had to overcome as far as for God don't deal with everybody. I just assumed that he dealt with everybody, right? Go to the book of Joel, chapter 2. Joel, chapter 2 and verse 27. So, well, Joel chapter 2, verse 27 says, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed, right? Once we know the Most High, we'll never be ashamed because we know that he's always for us, right? So this is that proclamation that those who know the Most High, especially when the Most High is showing you favor or he has blessed you in a certain kind of way, you want to be thankful to the Most High, because we know the Most High can be a terror, right? The Most High can be a terror to those that he now has to chasten, right? For those who cast him aside, who don't see him as that rock. He gets jealous, right? He gets angry, and he deals with us in a way. So when we're shown favor, like we have been shown favor in these last days, to even be a partaker of this truth, because not everyone is as privileged, then we have to make sure that in our prayers, we thank him, right? We thank him for our existence in this space, and then just for the daily things that the Most High has allowed us to have, right? Not those extremities, those wants, right? But just the things that we need. Thank him for those things. So in this case, Hannah, who desired to have a son by her husband because of the reproach that was coming on to her, she now is able to go and give that gratitude back to the Father. All right. So let's go back to 1 Samuel chapter 2.
Back in Deuteronomy 32, you could have easily add verse 8 and 9.
Good.
Right? But pretty much, because every nation got their inheritance. The Lord gave every nation their inheritance, but our inheritance is the Most High. So that pretty much tells you he doesn't deal with the other nation the same way. Because if he is our inheritance, so everything belongs to us, because everything belongs to the Most High.
Good. All right. So back in 1 Samuel chapter 2, we at verse 3 now. It says, talk no more so exceeding proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth, for the Lord is a power of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. So this is a warning to those that have, that are high-minded, that are proud, big-headed, right? That likes to take things into their own hands, right? That they don't have to rely on the Most High. They're very arrogant. It says, don't speak that way. Don't let that spirit come inside of you, because the Most High, the one who weighs things in the balance, can come and stunt your growth at the instant, right? And she's going to go into it. Verse 4, the bows of mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. So he can change things in a moment, right? Those that are strong can then become weak. Those that were weak can then become strong and girded up. That's how the Lord can now change the tide at his own will. It says, they that were full have hired out themselves for bread, right? You had a big table, your refrigerator, your storehouse, everything was plenteous and full. And then a couple months later, you out there begging and asking for bread, right? I'll do whatever it is just for some food, right? I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll paint your door. I'll clean the trash. I'll do whatever for some food. That's how the Most High can change an individual circumstance like that, right? So can't be proud, big-headed, puffed up, right? Even for those that's in this truth, we cannot never let that spirit come upon us. We always have to have a humble spirit, right? We got to be patient in the Most High. It says, and they that were hungry ceased. So those who probably was begging out there in the streets, right, that you looked at and you casted them for nothing, right, that you didn't see them as an individual, as a brother, as a servant, as a saint of the Most High. Now the Most High has stunted that growth, and now they're eating. Now their plate is full, while others whose were full, now it's empty. It says, so that the barren have borne 7, right? So those who were once barren, didn't have children, like Hannah, she was able to now bear several children. At one point, she couldn't have any, and it looked like despair. Faith never waned, and then the Most High can turn that around. And she that have many children is wax feeble, right? That woman who had a whole bunch of children, the Most High can take all of those kids away, right? The Most High can now cause catastrophe to happen with all the children away or taken away, killed some kind of way. So you got to make sure that you always put the Lord in perspective of what he can do or take away for an individual. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up, right? So we know the way of the world is in the hand of the Most High, right? He can kill, he can bring you in this earth, right? According to his will, right? I remember as a kid, somebody said on the news, it was like so-called New Year's, and there was a baby that was born like right at the minute or a second of the New Year coming in. And then someone said, tragically, at the same time that this newborn baby was being born, somebody was dying, right? Or someone died either through a shootout or whatever that's in the earth. So that whole dichotomy is up to the Most High, right? The Most High controls that. And a lot of the righteous men and women understand this, so that when we have these things happen, that we can put it in perspective and let that comfort us, knowing that this is the will of the Most High, right? Go back to Deuteronomy 32. Go back to Deuteronomy 32. And verse 39. So Deuteronomy 32 and 39 says, see now that I, even I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand, right? So this is what Moses knew, Hannah knew, Isaiah knew, all the prophets, all the righteous men and women knew about this and how the Most High operates. Even when you read it in 2 Maccabees with the woman who had the 7 sons, I believe it was 7 sons, and they were all murdered, right? Because they did not want to eat swine's flesh. They said that they knew that they were even going to come back in the regeneration and that the Most High would judge that king for what he had done. That puts things in perspective when you understand that the life that you live now is not even it. You're coming back, or you've been here before. You might receive a blessing or a punishment based on what you've done, or you will receive a blessing or a punishment for what you have done, right? Understanding this now makes your decision making and make your understanding and your comprehension a little bit higher level than most people that's in the earth, all right? So that was Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 39. You can write down Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. That's a popular one that most of us all know. Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 7. Let's see if I can get it. I'm not going to read that one. Let's see if I get another one here. Isaiah chapter 68. This is always one of my go-tos. Isaiah chapter 68 and verse 20. It says, he that is our power is the power of salvation, right? So if you need someone to save you from something, it's up to the Most High. It says, and unto God the Lord belong the issues from death, meaning death is in the control and power of the Most High. So if anybody dies, I don't care if it's a bird, a snake, a man, a woman, a baby, whatever, once they die, it's not just by chance. Know that the Most High sanctioned or allowed it to happen. If that person was not meant to die, they would not die. Right? That's how you hear sometimes you hear about people who got shot 9 and 15 times. I was with one of my close brothers a few weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, we were standing there and the brother got shot up. He shot up 9, 8 times, rolled under the car, and they were still shooting him, but he's still alive today, walking fine and everything else. And you say, how? And then you get somebody who gets shot 1 time in the leg and they bleed out and they die because it was sanctioned by the Most High for an individual. Person gets shot in the head, bullet lodged and went through the brain, and you're like, oh, they definitely done. Nah, the Most High can have that person survive because it was not meant for them to die. So all issues of death, whether it's COVID, right, cancer, whatever it is, it's of the Most High, right? And it's the Most High's will that these things happen. All right. So now let's go back. 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 7 now. This is the Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust and lifted up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he have set the world upon them. So again, remember, this is a prayer proclamation coming from Hannah, right? She understood. Well, at one point she was like that beggar. At one point she was like that one that was low. And then the Most High now has turned her despair into joy, right? That's why she's making it that everyone who now may be going through certain things or may see themselves in that light, be patient. The Most High can work with you if you are patient in him, right? It says, he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength shall no man prevail, right? So nothing is going to happen just out of our own accord, right? This time that we're in right now and trying to overcome what's going on in your personal life, in your social life, in the global atmosphere, it's not going to come of our own accord. We have to have the Most High. We have to have that spirit and that comfort and that guidance in order to get us through, right? Book of Zechariah, the book of Zechariah, chapter 4, another popular verse. Zechariah chapter 4 and verse 6. So Zechariah chapter 4 and verse 6 says, then he answered and spake unto me, saying, this is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts, right? So it's not going to be of man's own inventions or of your own will. It's going to be by the spirit and the spirit of the Most High God. That's why we're supposed to be now putting that spirit on us, right? Which is that blood that we seen when Moses led the children of Israel and they put the blood on the doorpost. And then we seen in the New Testament that blood is symbolic of Yahushua. And when a death angel comes through, that the blood was supposed to allow that to now pass by or pass over you. Same thing, you put it spiritually on you, that spirit you're putting on you. So when the death angels that are sent by the Most High now come reeking through the earth, they can see that on you. They see that spirit on you. They can pass right on by. This ain't for you. It's for those wicked ones out there. This is what we now recognize, that we have to have the Most High with us at all times, right? So now let's go back. 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 10 now. It says, the adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king and exalt the horn of his anointed, right? So it says the adversaries of the Lord shall be broken in pieces. The adversary is your foe or your enemy, right? Who are the foes or enemies that need to be broken in pieces of the Most High? Go to the book of Nehemiah. Go to the book of Nehemiah. Actually, not Nehemiah, Numbers. The book of Numbers, Salah. The book of Numbers, chapter 24, and verse 8. Numbers chapter 24 and verse 8. It says, God brought him forth out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of an unicorn. He shall eat up the nations, his enemies, and shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows. So this is what the Spirit has it, that the nation are his enemies, are his foes, are his adversaries, that he will now destroy and break their bones, right? That's the same thing we just read over here back in Samuel's, that the Lord is going to do to them. So the nations are his adversaries or his enemies, right? But is that all? Are they the only ones that are now going to be looked at or viewed to being the enemies of the Most High? Now, let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 19. Go to the book of Luke, chapter 19. Numbers 24 and 8. And now we're going to Luke 19 and verse 27. So it says in Luke 19:27, but those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. Right? So this is Christ speaking. So if you're an enemy to Christ, if you're an antichrist, that means you're an enemy to God. And the Most High has already stated what he's going to do to his adversaries. Now Christ comes into earth and says, those my enemies who oppose me. You had the chief priests, you had the scribes, Pharisees, and some of the others that were not even on that level of the people, that all did not follow behind Christ being their savior or being the Messiah. So in turn, when he comes back, he says this is what's going to happen, because they were not implementing capital punishment or giving capital punishment to the Jews at this time when the Romans was ruling. You had to go to the Romans. They had to execute that. So this wasn't talking about back then. This is going to be talking about what's to come, right? Read again. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them. Now, one would say, but come on, everybody likes Christ. Everybody believes in Christ. Everybody loves Jesus. Everybody says that he's the King and King of Kings. But what Jesus are they talking about? Are they talking about the one that walked the earth when he was in the earth? Are they talking about the one who has his description written in Revelations, the first chapter, right? A man that has white woolly hair, that his skin is like if it was burnt in the furnace, that dark. A man that said he only came for the children of Israel, right? That Jesus, they don't want that Jesus. They don't look to that Jesus. They look to the other so-called Jesus. They don't want him to reign over them, because that Jesus is prejudiced. That Jesus is racist. He's only caring about his people, right? The people back then knew that. The people today don't, because they have been deceived. So this is what's going to happen in the future. So not only the nations are going to be slayed or destroyed or broken, even 2/3 of our people as well, unfortunately. But this is what the Most High has shown us through the prophecy. All right, so now let's go back to 1 Samuel chapter 2. I'm going to read 10 again. It says, the adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces out of the heaven. So like out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king. Who is his king? Christ, right? Jesus Christ. That's what you read about in the book of Daniel, when the kingdom is now given over to Christ to rule forever and ever, and exalt the horn of his anointed, or the strength of his anointed. Who is the anointed savior? Jesus Christ, or Yahushua Mashiach. Verse 11 now. So this was everything that we just read from verse 1 all the way to verse 10 is pretty much a prayer that Hannah now gave in proclamation of gratitude about the Most High, and then also what the Most High can do and what he will do in the earth, right? So now we have verse 11. And Elkanah, which was her husband, went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest. Because when we read it in the previous chapter, when the baby was weaned off of its mother, it was nursed. It got to a good age where it now could be self-sufficient, didn't have to have any, breast milk and things of that nature, was potty trained. Then they went and gave him to the priest. And then he ministered or was being tutored, right, under the priest there back in the sanctuary in Shiloh, right? So now it says, verse 11 again, and Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest. Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They knew not the Lord, right? So when you read about the sons of Belial, it's like the sons of the devil, right? The sons of Satan, right? Those who are contrary to the Most High. That's what it means when it says they knew not the Lord. What it means, they don't know the Lord. They were not keeping the Most High's commandments. How do you prove that? 1 John chapter 2 and verse 4. 1 John in the New Testament, chapter 2 and verse 4. It says, he that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. So this is why we was talking about in the class this evening, as far as for how do you know, or what does it mean when you're in the truth? The foundation of being in the truth is just not knowing that you're an Israelite. Now that's surface, because you had people back then who knew they was Israelites and didn't keep the commandments. So if you don't keep the commandments, you don't know the Most High. How do we know that? The verse above says, and hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments. So in reference to Eli's sons, it says they were sons of Satan, sons of Belial, right? Because they knew not the Lord, right? They didn't keep these commandments. And as we read on, we're going to see how we know that they didn't keep the commandments of the Most High. All right, let's go back. 1 Samuel chapter 2 and 13. It says, and the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came while the flesh was in seething with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand. He struck it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. Now, these priests, these men went the hell off, right? Let's find out why. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 7. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 7. And we're going to start at verse 29, actually 28. Leviticus chapter 7 and 28. So this is good that when we read, some of these laws, the laws have, meaning now when you read on certain events. And then it now carries weight as to why these men are going to be classified as the sons of Belial, right? It says, verse 28, Leviticus chapter 7. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, he that offereth the sacrifice of his peace offerings unto the Lord shall bring his oblation unto the Lord of the sacrifice of his peace offerings. His own hands shall bring the offerings of the Lord, made by fire. The fat with the breast, it shall he bring, that the breast may be waved for a wave offering unto the Lord. And the priest shall burn the fat upon the altar, but the breast shall be Aaron's and his sons. So now when you look at the offering that these men or these people brought for a peace offering, there was now certain provisions that now had to be kept, right? The fat was supposed to be given and taken away from the offering and given to the Most High. The breast was now that portion of the offering that was given to the priest. Verse 32, it says, and the right shoulder shall he give unto the priest for an heave offering unto the sacrifices of your peace offerings. So the wave offering or the breast and the heave offering or the shoulder portion of that sacrifice, those two pieces were given to the priest. The fat and everything else was supposed to be given to the Most High, right? And burned on the altar. Reading on, it says, he among the sons of Aaron that offereth the blood of the peace offering and the fat shall have the right shoulder for his part. For the waved breast and the heaved shoulder have I taken of the children of Israel from off the sacrifices of their peace offerings, and have given them unto Aaron and the priests and unto his sons by a statute forever from among the children of Israel. Right? Now, what's the consequence for not keeping this ordinance here? Let's jump back to verse 25, right? Same chapter, verse 25. It says, for whosoever eateth the fat of the beast of which men offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, even the soul that eateth it shall be cut off from his people, right? Because that was set aside from the Most High. So now you're robbing the Most High when you do that. So the Lord says, if any man do that, he got to die. I've given what the priest should do and what they should eat. If they violate this, that priest, that man got to die. So now let's go back to 1 Samuel and read this again from 13. It says, and the priest's customs with the people was. So this wasn't according to the law. This was something that they did on their own. They changed the law now. They come up with their own thing. It says that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest servant came with the flesh, while the flesh was seething or cooking, with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand, and he struck it in the pan or the kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So now the person who came and made the offering, he's now preparing his offering to give to the Most High and separate what was supposed to be given for the priest. But these guys went and said, nah, listen, go take that hook. Take the hook, and they got that pot cooking for the sacrifice. Go in there, stick it in the pot or the cauldron, and whatever come up, that's what we taking, right? So now, if you come in and doing the offering, you like, hold on, man, what you doing? You know, that's off. But what you going to say, what you going to do when this is the priest that's doing it, and they're the authority figure, right? So now this is what's happening, and they made it so that the people had to follow their new rule. Let's read on. It says, so they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. Also, before they burned the fat, the priest servant came and said to the man that sacrificed, give flesh to roast for the priest, for he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw. So now they even went and took it raw as they were preparing what the fat was supposed to be given for a sacrifice. They said, nah, give us that right now. We don't even want what you about to. We want to have this now so that we can do our own roasting. Totally off, right? It says, verse 16, and if any man said to him, let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as the soul desireth, then he would answer him, nay, la'ah, but thou shalt give it to me now, and if not, I will take it by force. Right? So now they was like, listen, if any man did come and buck up and try to exhort, like, listen, brother, we shouldn't be doing this. You know, the Most High said this is how it's supposed to go. Listen, either you're going to do it or I'm going to come and take it myself. Right? So now you coming and giving a peace offering, it makes you feel some kind of way, because it's like, yo, my peace offering is now defiled. How is the Most High going to be accepting what I'm offering? This is messed up, man. Right? So it says this. Wherefore, the sin of the young men was very great before Yahweh, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord. So now it deterred the people from even coming and doing the offerings. So now it's like, yo, I don't even want to come and do it, because these guys is off, man. They're wicked. I don't want to get wrapped up into their shenanigans, right? The Most High may coming down and strike the whole thing. So you know what? I'll leave it alone. I hate going up there, right? Now, verse 18. But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child girded with the linen ephod. So Samuel's still coming up in the ranks. He's still ministering as these two sons of sons of Eli are doing this. Eli is the priest at that time, right? So now the Most High already has a successor that's waiting in the wings, right? It says, moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him from year to year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice, right? So every year kind of reminds you of Joseph when he was given his, his coat, and it made the brothers jealous, right? But now here it is. Fast forward, you got it where Hannah, every year she bought this nice coat that was knit by her, right? Because of course she was exceedingly joyful that the Most High was able to bless her to have her first son now is dedicated to the Lord, and she did this every year. So he got a new coat every year that she came up, as long as she was alive, right? It says in verse 20, and Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, Yahweh give thee seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to the Lord. And they went unto their own home. So at this point, Samuel was all that she had at that time, and it was dedicated to the Most High. So now Eli said a prayer and a blessing that the Most High would allow Hannah to have more children, because she had already dedicated or given her son to him, right? Once that happened, then they left and went back home. Verse 21, and the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before Yahweh. So she had 6 in total. 1 is with the Most High, 5 is dwelling with them, right? 3 more boys and 2 daughters, right? So now the Lord visits her. It didn't say that it had to be immediate, right? Could have been a year, 2 years, 5 months. We don't know, but we know the Lord came and allowed them to have more children over time, right?
A lot of time went by. She had 5 kids. You have 5 kids. It doesn't mean she had 5 kids in 5 years.
Right.
I mean, a lot of time went by.
No, you could have 5 kids in 5 years.
I'm just saying, but I don't think.
We don't know.
We don't know, right?
We don't know, right? It's just the fact that the Most High blessed her that she can have 5 more kids, when at one point she didn't have none. And now the one that she had given up to the Lord, right? Verse 22. Now Eli was very old and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assemble at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So that wasn't enough. So these sons, being the sons of Belial, they was already polluting the sacrifice or the offerings. But now they dibbling and dabbling into harlotry. The women that was coming to worship at the sanctuary, now they going and laying with these women, right? Using their influence to go and be with these women, right? And we know sometimes how some women are and how they look up to certain figureheads or priests, that they would, especially those who are not strong-minded, to say, no, I'm not even coming here to the tabernacle. They came and these men went and lay with them, right? Wicked. So now Eli, right, is now being told of what his sons is doing, right? What Eli should have did, he didn't do. But let's check out what happens. Verse 23. And he said unto them, why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. ye make the Lord's people to transgress. So they were suffering sin upon the people, right? That's why some didn't want to come and do the offerings, because they was now making their offerings polluted. Now you got these women that's coming up and they laying with them, right? Causing sin upon these women because they're the ones who are now enticing them and getting them to do this. So now Eli comes up and said, listen, sons, y'all got to stop doing this, man. People, this stuff coming back to me. I'm hearing what's going on. The people complaining, right? Y'all making the people to sin. You shouldn't be doing that. And that's where it stops, right? That's where it stops. Because what should have happened, they should have been removed from that position, because they had now defiled it. They were not fit to hold that position because of all that they were doing, and everybody's complaining, right? Verse 25, if one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding, they hearken not unto the voice of their father, because the Lord would slay them. Meaning what? Meaning in the Most High, just like sometimes he does, he was going to make an example out of them, right? He was saying this, and they saying, yeah, Pi, we hear you. But the Most High had already made a judgment that he was going to kill those things, right? Regardless of what that conversation was going to happen, he was going to kill them. And it continued on, right? Verse 26, and the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men, right? So that same type of respect and adoration that happened with King David, when David was coming up in the ranks, the Most High adored him and the people adored him. Now it's the same thing happening during the priesthood with Samuel the prophet, right? It says in verse 27, and there came a man of God unto Eli and said unto him, thus saith Yahweh, did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And did I choose him out of all the tribes to be my priest, to offer upon mine altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? So what he's speaking about, as far as for what he says, thy father, he's not speaking about his immediate father, right? Go to the book of Numbers, the 18th chapter. Numbers chapter 18. So Numbers chapter 18 and verse 1, it says, and Yahweh, or the Lord, said unto Aaron, thou and thy sons and thy father's house with thee shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood, and thy brethren also of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of thy father, bring thou with thee, that they may be joined unto thee and minister unto thee. But thou and thy sons with thee shall minister before the tabernacle of witness, right? The tabernacle was a tent. Tabernacle was a tent where the Ark of the Covenant dwelt. So now it's known that the tribe that is spoken about, the father is the Levi, right? That came out of the 12. Levi was taken away from the 12 and set up to be a part, those who was going to be joined to the Most High to serve him. Jump down to verse 7. It says, therefore thou and thy sons with thee shall keep your priest's office for everything of the altar and within the veil, and ye shall serve. I have given your priest's office unto you as a service of gift, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. So this is something that's supposed to go down Aaron's lineage, that they were supposed to keep that service. No one else that came out of Levi had that specific charge but Aaron's sons, right? Then it says, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. What is that talking about? And the stranger that cometh nigh or near to doing that service shall be put to death. What is that talking about?
Anybody outside of the children of Aaron.
Anyone outside of the seed of Aaron specifically. So if you was an Ephraimite, if you was a Levite that came out of somebody else and you came to do that, you was going to be put to death because it's not your charge. So we see even in the scriptures that we within the nation can be strangers to each other based on service, right? It's just like a king. You can't have the service or duty of a king unless you be a Judite, unless you come out of the lineage of David and Solomon, right? You can't be one of other, Absalom's lineage and say, yeah, I want to go sit on the throne. No, it has to now come from David on down to Solomon, because the Lord set that up when you read in 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter. All right, so let's go back to 1 Samuel's. 1 Samuel chapter 2, and we at verse 29 now. It says, wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering, which I have commanded in mine habitation, and honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people. So the Most High is not coming at those two sons. He's now chastising Eli. He's holding him to the fire as far as what his son's doing, because he now regarded them more than the Most High by allowing them to do that and not regarding the Lord and getting them out of the way, right? Or being more stern with his discipline. Verse 30, wherefore the Lord God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever, meaning those who come out of Levi, Aaron the priest. But now the Lord said, be it far from me, for them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. So anyone who now keeps the commandment, gives glory and honor to the Most High by keeping his ordinances, the Most High is going to bless. But those that disrespect the Most High, those that despise the Most High and keep not his ordinances, are going to be lightly esteemed, meaning the Most High is not going to have that care and that love and favor for you like he should, right? Go to the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms, chapter 18. Psalm chapter 18 and verse 20. It says, the Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands hath he recompensed me, right? So righteousness is what's going to get you the reward. Sin is now what's going to get you that recompense that can come back onto you, right? That's what the Most High is now executing upon Eli. Galatians 6 and 7. You reap what you sow. Most High is not mocked. Don't think the Most High don't see you, that he don't know what each and every one of us is doing, especially when it makes him look bad, or when you are now robbing him of what is his, or you're going against what you should be doing. The Most High can bring that back on your own head, right? So now let's go back. 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 31 now. It says, behold, the days come, and I will cut off thine arm, or thy strength, and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thine house, right? Meaning the Most High was going to have that family where they were going to die, right? Young deaths, right? They're not going to have someone who's going to live a long life, right? When they get to 70, 80, 90 years old, and he can say, yeah, that person died, and he lived a good life. You reach up to these ages somewhere past 70, you lived a good life, man. You've seen a lot, right? You went up and you've seen your kids grow up, you got grandkids, and some may be fortunate to have great grandkids. The Lord says you're not going to have that. It's going to be, you're going to have some tragedy that's going on. Most High is going to remove you and bring turmoil and tribulation and trials, unwarranted in your life. Marie 31 again. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thine house. and thou shalt see an enemy in mine habitations, in all the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to give thine heart, it's a lot, and to grieve thine heart. And all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. When it talks about the flower of their age and the youth of their age, right? It's just like when the Most High speaks about when a woman comes into her flowers, meaning she gets onto her menstrual, that's in the youth of her age. That's when that happens. So it's the same thing here. Those that the Most High don't cut off, that he can't see, that's left, the Most High said, I'm leaving them alive so that they can die and be aggrieved in front of you. You're going to see this happen. Man, can you imagine that? The Most High is now making it his point, his purpose to have your children, because they always say, you know, a father or a mother, the parent should not bury the children, right? A child should bury their parents. But now when the Lord has this happen, sometimes, not all the time, it's because the Lord is bringing forth judgment, as we're reading right now. Specifically for Eli. The sons are wicked as hell as well, but now he wants Eli to now even himself bear the consequence of his actions. He could have just took Eli away. And then after that, then the sons die. But no, he says, I'm going to leave them so that when you see it in your eyes, it's going to be a grief to your heart. Read that one more in verse 33. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. And this shall be a sign unto thee, that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall both die, both of them. So imagine, you know, sometimes death catches us unawares. But when the Most High comes to you and visits you and tells you about the death, tells you what's going to happen, how they're going to die, and when they're going to die, and these things, man, that's even more heart-wrenching, because you know it's going to be imminent, and you know why they're dying. Most times we don't know why a person dies, right? Most times we don't know why a person dies, for what things that they could have done in their past life or what have you. Or it's just a natural death, or the Most High. Most High even tells you that sometimes even the righteous, he takes them so that they don't have to see the evil and sin that's still to come. It's like he's relieving them of the grief. But we need to know that. Sometimes we don't know those things.
So now, this is a question I have. Are you saying that? So in the case of Job, you know, his sons died. Was that just because the Most High just wanted to prove to Satan that Job was a righteous servant? That was the only reason that the children died? Or was it something that they've done in the past before, now just judgment that's been put on them?
How would we know?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So you're asking me the answer that the Most High would know. That's why I said most times we don't know why certain people die, right? Knowing that the Most High controls all issues of death. Everything that dies, the Most High has. He makes alive and he kills. So now you may have a righteous man that might be fighting a war and he dies. Are we going to say, well, Dad, he died during that time because he was wicked or because he did something in the previous life? How would we know, right? Sometimes the Most High reveals things to us at the times of it happening, like what we're reading right now, like what we read during the time of the Maccabees when these men died and the men was about to go honor them and then went to go into their tent. They saw all of the wicked stuff that they had went and got. And it was like, oh, these guys was off. And they thanked the Most High because the Most High was able to reveal that to them so that they could know. Most times we don't have that knowledge.
Right, but the parallel that I put with when I read it, as far as Job's sons and the blind man that was blind his entire life,
right?
Just Christ could come to make that miracle happen,
right?
That's how I look at it. Maybe that was the reason that Job's sons was born, but that same reason, because right after that he got all of it back. He had more sons.
Right, but here's the thing: the key part of what you just said was right. The key part you said was maybe, right? Maybe, because at the time when you're talking about the blind man in Book of John, the 9th chapter, they questioned it. Right. The disciples who was there, they didn't know. Christ had to give them that insight, right? Christ had to say, no, it wasn't about his son, his sin, or the parent's sin. This was done so that because now it's that I could be made manifest in the earth. So you said, oh, okay. So now I ain't got to worry about him. But now when you talk about other people randomly, you don't know.
But there's one case in Moses' situation, I mean, in Job's situation, where it said Job wouldn't make a sacrifice for him regularly because he don't know what they were up to.
Exactly.
So, and if you take that particular, knowledge that we know right there, he was doing sacrifice for them regularly. So they must have been doing something wicked. That was an opportunity. Like, hey, most I said, I'm going to use this opportunity. Doing wicked things anyway. Even Job was sacrificed for them, asking mercy on the Most High for them, but he still judged them, used them to judge them, and also to show to Satan. This is my speculation. Like I said, I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I said. We could speculate and say, well, maybe it was something they did in the previous life.
Right.
You don't know. Or maybe it was something they did in that life. Right. You don't know. Or he's using it as an example because all issues of death belong to him. Unless the Most High reveals certain things specifically, then it's going to always be just a speculation. Like this here, you can't get around it. The Most High is telling him verbatim, your sons was wicked as hell. Matter of fact, they're going to die in front. They're going to die. You're going to see it happen. Both of them going to die in the same day, right? So you're like, dag, man, I'm having both my sons taken away. Not, between this. No, they're going to die the same day because of you a part of it, Eli. You let them do this. So now you sitting there with that grief that you can't change. You're like, dag, if I would have been a little bit more, maybe. And now it's at a point where most I was like, he slapped the table, is done, right? So now reading that again, verse 34, and this shall be the sign unto thee that shall come upon thy two sons on Hophni and Phinehas. And one day shall they both die, both of them. And I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in mine heart and in mine mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. So now the one that's immediate, that's now about to come up before him is who? Samuel, right? He about to get these two sinners out the way. And he already got one that's been ministering unto Eli, right? Ministering in the priesthood. And now he's going to be the one. Now check out what it says. It says, and I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever, right? So now this spirit of Samuel was going to be one that's going to continually walk through the spirit, through the priesthood of the Most High as a man of God throughout all generations. Even when Yahushua comes back, his spirit is going to be here because why? He was now going to be doing this forever. This is who we're reading about. This is who he was prepping, moving these men out the way and bringing in this righteous new priest that's going to be Samuel. Verse 36, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread. So even those men back there that didn't die, the Most High said that they would be beggars. They'll be begging to get back into that priesthood. They're going to be begging for bread, to just sit at the table just to get a morsel of bread. So sometimes when you see these things happening in the streets, it's definitely a judgment of the Most High. That's why he said he can take somebody who's full and make them feeble. He could take somebody who was weak and didn't have much, and now they're fully satisfied, right? Take the low and make them rich, and make the rich a beggar. This is what was now going to happen. They was a priesthood. They was sitting fat. They was eating good. That's what he told them. He said, y'all got fat off of me. Now y'all going to be begging, right? So it now puts things in perspective as to how you now need to, order and pay attention to the things that you do, because the Most High and the angels is watching. The Most High can get upset and then cast a judgment upon you. He don't always got to come and tell you certain things, right? The Most High can just have it happen and leave you scratching your head and wondering. These things show us that the Lord can give you that insight prior to it happening, right? Let's jump into chapter 3. It says, and the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, And the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision, right? So that meant that the Most High, at times, he can have a lot of dreams and bring a lot of revelations forth, or bring out the prophets to bring out the word through a lot of different men or women. Not during that time. It says that the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. Things wasn't just known like that. You had to go to a man of the Lord, such as a Samuel, to find out what was going on, to entreat the Lord of answers to certain things. We didn't know what was really going on in the world like that back then. Same thing as now, right? We rely on the spirit of this Bible. We rely on our keeping in the commandments and the Lord ministering to us spiritually to give us these comfort and insight. He ain't coming down and sending Uri to sit next to Mount Ashad and he telling him like how I was, and he lets it known that he's an angel. It didn't happen like that all the time. Actually, the majority of the time, it didn't happen like that. So it says, and it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. So over time, through old age, people say it's like cataracts and things like that. He couldn't see clearly, right? This was now happening to him as time went on. And ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel. And he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli and said, Here am I, for thou callest me, and he said, I called not, lie down again. And he went and lay down. So they're in the temple, they're in certain areas. Eli can't see. He, kind of dim, they're in there sleeping. And the Most High now has an angel or whatever that comes through. And he calls out Samuel. Samuel still, wet behind the ears. He comes in thinking that it's Eli calling him. He goes over, Eli, I'm here. What's up? What are you talking about? I didn't call you. Go lay back down. Go to sleep. You're hearing things, right? It says in verse 6, and the Lord called yet again Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called not, my son. Lay down again. So it now happened the second time. Verse 7, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him, right? So he didn't fully have that spirit come on him yet. He's in the priesthood, he's under Eli, but he didn't have that spirit come on him yet. It's like when you're reading the book of Acts, forget the chapter where they knew about Christ, but they said, have you received the Holy Spirit yet? And it was like, Holy Spirit? We know not what you're talking about. What's this Holy Spirit thing you're talking about? And it says, yes, because the Holy Spirit didn't come upon them yet. And it would happen to them later on, especially when you read during the times of the Feast of the Pentecost, right? The Spirit came on them then. So sometimes you can have someone who's knowledgeable about the Most High, but not fully in the spirit of things yet. And that's what was going on with Samuel. Now this is about to be that encounter where the Most High is now about to take Samuel under the wings. He was already a respectable young man, right? Because he got the respect of the priests and he got the respect of the people. And he was already given favor by the Lord because the Most High had already pulled him and chose him to be the one that was going to be the next successor as far as for running the priesthood. It says in verse 7 again, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. So now it dawned on him that he's hearing these voices in this tabernacle. It must be the Most High. Got to be the Lord, right? Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt speak, Yahweh, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place, right? So now he figured out that this continuously keep happening. The third time, it's got to be the Most High calling them. Sometimes the Most High appears to individuals. He appeared to Moses. He appeared to Ezra. He appeared to certain people in different times and reveals himself, and then he communicates with you. If this happened again, answer out. I hear you, Most High. I'm here, right? Verse 10, And the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. Right? Most High said the same thing when you read in I think it's Second Kings or First Chronicles, one or the other. Let me see. That same phrase, as far as for when you heareth it, it's like your ears going tingle. Give me 1 second. Right. This was Gun.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment regarding what Minor shot bring out.
Gun.
Right? About the sin.
Gun.
Usually, we always look at when something is going on with somebody, the person got to be sin. That's not always the case. Most of the time is people's faith are being tested. Because when you look at it, when you read in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1, it says, when you come to serve the Lord, prepare your heart and conscience. Meaning you will be tested, that without a doubt. So you will be going to stuff. And if you don't pay attention to what is happening, you might think, man, maybe I sinned. Maybe I did this. Oh my God, maybe I do this. It's not always the case. Because the test is when we come to serve the Most High, our faith are being tested every day, every hour, every minute to see whether or not we believe in the Most High. And that's the given, and there's no way around it. So people may be going through stuff, it's not because they're wicked, it's because their faith are being tested to see if they really true to what they say they believe in. It's almost like when somebody going through some stuff, for example, you believe in the Most High, you praying for the Most High, and you sick. And you want to get better. Instead of getting better, while you praying, you're getting worse. Now your faith is being tested because are you really want to be better to see if you believe in the Most High, or are you going to go through it whether or not you get better? Or you might even get to the point where you die. Are you still going to believe in the Most High? That doesn't mean that you were wicked. It's a test. It's a test of faith. It's the same thing that happened to Job. Job was going through what he was going through. Regardless, he said, I'm going to keep going because naked I came, naked I shall return. So regardless of what happened, I'm still going to believe in the Most High regardless of what happened. So that's always the key.
Right, but I think you was speaking specifically about the death, like those people dying, and the reasons why certain people die. Like we're reading here in Samuel's that these two sons were going to die because they had pretty much robbed and defiled the sanctuary of the Most High, that were harlotry and things of that nature. And now the judgment was also coming on Eli because of his lack of discipline in dealing with the situation. Not so much the trial and tribulation that you go through, but the reason of the death, right?
That's why I made the example with the blind man.
Right. So at some point, sometimes it's explicit. You can see it right out in there, and it tells you, the scripture tells you they're going through this because of this, that, and the third. But at sometimes also you don't know exactly what you're going through. In that specific situation, it tells you exactly what was happening and the reason why they were being punished.
Right.
But in most cases, let's say if you're serving the Most High, you're doing your best to keep the Lord's statute commandments, still things are going not the way you would want it. It's not because you were wicked.
Right. I'm gonna read this. That's
what I wanted to point out.
Right. I'm gonna read this to kind of, I think, go what we was talking about since he revisited this point. This is Isaiah chapter 57. Right, Isaiah 57. Right, because again, just to reiterate, I think Manashah wasn't talking about the trial of the faith that we go through and the things that we're going through to prove our faith. Is just the actual event of the death from why some people die, like what we're reading here in this chapter. So this is Isaiah chapter 57 and 1. It says, the righteous perisheth, and no man layeth the heart. Right, so you're going to have righteous men and women, for that matter, die, and no person really understands what the cause or the reason is. Watch this. And merciful men are taken away, none considering that the righteous is taken away from the evil to come. So in some cases, you don't know that you might have a righteous brother or righteous sister or whatever, and they die at 30. Right? They dying at 30. You like, yo, that what we say, gone too soon and things of that nature. It's like, man, that's just messed up. But they don't know the Most High. The Most High is showing that person favor and saying, listen, I'm going to take you up off this earth before you even have to go through Jacob's trouble. Before you go through what's about to happen in the earth with the earthquakes and the plagues and things of that nature. That's why even Paul was like, he'd rather be with Christ. But he's given me this duty that I got to stay here and teach the rest of my people. If that's going to be a blessing, a benefit, okay, I'll do that. But I'd rather be with Christ because I won't have to worry about none of this stuff here. I won't have to be going through these pains and this, that, and the third. So in some cases, you're going to have even righteous individuals who's taken, merciful ones, who's taken off this earth, not because of sin, not because of the trial of their faith was this and that third. No, the Lord said, I'm going to show you favor that you don't have to go through that. Where some of these other prophets was afraid when they saw the visions, they like Daniel and Ezra and them, they passed out. It was like, what? Is this what's going on? They had to go and fast and take some time to themselves before they came back and re-engage with the Most High for the Most High to show them more. So he's like, look, in this case, some of y'all, you ain't got to go through that, right? I'll relieve you of that. I'll bring you back. You know, when Christ come, when he come and he show up, I'll resurrect you at that time. At that moment, when the chariot is here, I'll resurrect you and you're just going to go straight to the chariot. While others is now, you know, scarcely being saved, ducking and making sure that we don't fall into the perils. And then we like, yo, Obi, beam me up. Obi, take me up. Oh, I'm taken up. And now you're good. You have done so much good throughout your generations. You ain't got to go through that. I'm going to take you out sooner. People going to mourn. People going to be upset. They're going to cry. But they ain't going to understand. That's why the Lord says, no man layeth it to heart. That understanding ain't there as to why the Lord did that.
Because your assignment, according to the Most High, is done. The Most High takes you out. But according to people, you should have stayed here because you know.
Right.
But the Most High, you already have it in his plan that, okay, your time is done. Regardless of how young or how old, your time is done. And that it was purpose for me to make that happen. So another example is the Stephen. When he was being stoned, even in his stoning, he still didn't deny the Most High. He still kept the faith to the point where he saw the Most High's glory while he was being stoned. And he died. Most people may not understand that. Why would this man who's doing the right thing according to the Most High, and he's being stoned to death, yet even in the stoning situation, still he kept the faith?
Con.
That's in Acts 7:54 and 60.
Con. All right. Where did we leave off? We left off 1 Samuel's 3rd chapter. It was at verse 11, and then I was referencing or linking up with that verse in 2 Kings, where it talks about we're going to hear a thing and it's going to make your ears to tingle. Make your ears to tingle. I think it's 2 Kings chapter 21 and verse 12, where it says, Therefore thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Behold, I am bringing such an evil upon Jerusalem and Judah that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle, right? Which is figurative to the point where when you hear it, it's almost like you're not even going to believe it, right? It's going to be that jarring to you about the evil or the destruction that's coming, right? So now let's go back. Same thing, 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 11. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all the things which I have spoken concerning his house. And when I begin, I will also make an end. Meaning everything that he stated is going to come to pass, right? Eli being a person who was viewed as the priest, the things that was going on with his sons and the things that was going on in his house, everything that he said was going to happen. And he says, when people see it and when they hear about what was going on and why the Lord did, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to make even people now reconsider their ways. Right? That was the whole point of the death judgment when it pertained to breaking God's commandment, the stoning of an individual, right? The burning of an individual, right? To burn somebody alive or stone somebody alive, man, that's gruesome. But nowadays, we so kind of, comfortable with death. We see death all the time. It's like, yeah, another man died in Philly on which block? This block, old block, this block. Death is happening so rampant that it's like, man, it don't even cause people to fear it anymore, right? It becomes a norm. You become numb to it, right? Back in the day, when I was a kid growing up, when you heard about death, it was alarming and shocking. Not your own personal circle, right? We're talking about just hearing death. This person died, that person died, and you just carry on, right? This person was robbing the store. I heard the one that was, this is how the Most High can work. I heard the story of a young sister, I think she was 17, had a best friend working at a Burger King and her dad. They conspired to rob the Burger King, right? They were working at the Burger King. The dad comes to the drive-through window with a gun and say, give me everything in the register. So now the daughter and her best friend are there to comply, give them all the money, and make everybody just say, hey, just do it. Not knowing that this other knucklehead who was a felon, he had a gun, which he shouldn't have had, but he now wants to be the hero in charge, and he went and pulled out the gun and was trying to shoot the dad, shot the daughter, killed her. 17-year-old. And I'm listening to the story and I'm like, what? You can't make that up, right? The way it all happened, she set it up where they just going to rob. The Most High had this guy who was a felon that was going to bring judgment, right? Because all issues of death come from the Most High. That didn't happen by chance. It appeared that they was conspiring. Oh man, it just came out of blue. No, Most High saw the whole thing. Most High knew her spirit. That day, that moment, that hour, this was going to happen, and she was going to come back and be sitting up in the third heaven, right? So with all these things, and I see this consistently online on social media and the news, it's like, wow. Now it's like, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. Some of them are tragic, like the fires that happened in Philly, the fire that happened in the Bronx, where you got 10, 12, 13 people, young kids dying. Because we was talking about it before, that dying the death of fire, getting burned alive in a fire, or a house or a car, something like that. Man, you could just imagine it. But now it's happening. It just happened down here in Philly. Then 3 days or 4 days later, I hear it happen in the Bronx. Then I hear it here, and I'm like, man. And when you hear it happen so frequently, then like you said, you get numb to it. It becomes normal. It's like, what? You listen on the news, another person died. Wow. Oh, there's a shootout. Oh, the cop died in Harlem the other night. Wow. This person died. Oh, wow.
This is something, like you said, become numb to it. I realize that because even me and my friend, we will wake up, say, Saturday morning, right? And we'll turn on the news. He's like, let's see how many people died.
I was going to say, you expect to hear death.
That's how many people. It's like almost like that. I mean, you turn on the news just to see how many people died last night.
Yeah.
Friday night. Friday night is when people go out in the club and all that stuff. All these things are happening every Saturday morning.
You expect to hear the death.
It was always the same thing. How many people died? How many people died last night? It was like, wow, this is sad. I mean, like I said, to the point, it becomes a norm. It becomes numb to it.
Yep. And that over time, like we was reading it, or when you're reading the Apocrypha of Esdras, that's what the Most High was saying, that the earth has lost its youth, is now waxing old, right? When it was youthful, this thing would have been alarming. But now you at the end time, this is the norm. This is the society, the place that we live in now. You expect these guys to kill each other. You expect that to happen when you turn on the news. It's waxed old. Now it's time for something different. We got to get off of this. right? That's why we're waiting for the kingdom, where when you now look for the news, you looking for, oh, they were celebrating the Sabbath, right? They had a good time celebrating the Sabbath. That's going to be the new news in the kingdom. How great we praise the Most High that evening, right? And now we're here worshiping in the morning, right? That's going to be the new news. We ain't going to be inundated with all of this, death and mourning and this and that and peril and sin and conspiracy and war. That's going to all be gone.
No virus.
No viruses, no pestilences, right? We don't have to worry about any of that. But right now, the Most High says, like he was talking about specifically with Eli in his house, he's going to do the same thing with Esau in his house during this time, right? So let's go back again, verse 12. In that day will I perform against Eli all the things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. Check that out. So this gives more insight to what you was talking about, right? Some of these things we don't know. Right now, whoever is Eli and his sons that's in his house, they getting jacked up. It says here, for I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, right? So up until the time that Christ come back, this guy's going to get jacked up, him and his house. So now you going through different generations, you're going through different periods in time, and you seeing certain things happen to him. You don't know that he's Eli or the spirit of Eli is in him. You don't know that the spirit of Hophni and Phinehas is in these two men over here. And then you seeing certain things happen tragically. Like, wow, that's crazy. Why would that happen? Oh, you didn't know that certain things that they did aforetime, the Most High said he's going to deal with them forever. Right? Now, it ain't talking about all the way until the kingdom, because we know in the kingdom, we're going to be at peace, right? We're going to be now knowing the Most High. This forever is through this generation of side. This is where he's going to now get punished. We're not going to be having individuals like during Moses' time getting jacked up and punished when the Most High said they weren't written in the book of life. They're going to get jacked up and punished in the kingdom. There's no sin in the kingdom with Israel. So this is dealing with for right now during this time on earth, during Satan's reign in the earth. Let's read on. Verse 14, and therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. You can't come and get your way out of this. You can't bribe your way. You can't come and say, oh, Most High, I'm sorry. I want to give you an offering. I'm going to donate not 10%. I'm going to donate 50% of everything that I own to you. And no, it's not going to happen, right? This judgment is set. It's going to continually happen throughout their generations. Verse 15, and Samuel lay unto the morning and opened the doors of the house of Yahweh. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. So now he hears what's happening because he's now being ministered to by him, right? He's there dwelling with him. So now you imagine you got to walk with that knowledge, knowing that this man about to get jacked up and his whole house. Not just now, in the regenerations, they're going to get jacked up. So now he's contemplating this, and he now coming, Eli, yeah, so what'd he say? Sometimes you don't want to be the messenger, right? You don't want to be the bearer of bad news, right? So again, it says, and Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. And Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, here am I. And he said, what is the thing that the Lord hath said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it not from me. God do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me of all the things that he said unto thee. Damn. Why you gonna say something like that? Whatever he said, if you don't tell me, let it come on you too. What? How you gonna do that, man? You don't put me in a rock and a hard place. All right, grab a chair. Because I don't want that to happen to me. Grab a chair, sit down. Let me lay this on you, right? Verse 18. And Samuel told him every whit and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seemeth good. Right? So at some point in time, you have people who realize and say, it's the Most High judgment. The Lord do what he's going to do. Right? It is what it is. Accountability is it's like an absent thing with a lot of people. Right? When you are honest with yourself and you can say, yeah, this is what I did wrong, that goes a long way. Israel would have been as a nation of people individually and as collective, we would have been in a very better space if we just owned up to our faults. Right? Look at the beginning with Adam. When Adam and Eve sinned, Eve took the knowledge that she shouldn't have taken, not the apple, but the knowledge, and gave it back to her husband. Adam, spirit, ate of it, and they followed these different things. And the Most High came and checked Adam. Adam, what you do? Wasn't me. It was that woman that you gave me. He threw his wife under the bus. It wasn't me, Most High. Listen, you should have gave me a different woman. Right? If he would have just owned up to it, it would have probably been a better case. And as parents, right, you value that more than if a person lied to you or run from their fault, right? At least you told me, right? At least you being honest with me, being transparent. But when you hide, I don't know what you're doing out there. But we know the Most High sees all. So the Lord, check that. But now with this, it's the same thing. It's like, all right, well, if the Most High said this, if the Most High put this as a form of judgment, then what am I going to say? Everything the Most High does is good. Most High don't make no errors. He don't make no mistakes. It is what it is. I got to accept my fate. Verse 19. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. Before I read this again, let's not get it. I mean, come on now. If you heard what the Most High told Samuel, and Samuel went and told Eli, he's accepting it. But man, that's going to be from that point on. Oh man, that's torment. Because you now know that the Most High ain't dealing with you. And not only that the Most High ain't dealing with you no more, or your sons, he already told you that y'all going to die. And now he's telling the one that you minister, that you bring it up. This is confirmed. He's giving you all the aspects. Every whit is what Samuel told him. Every detail of what's going to happen, he told him. You know that weight that now comes in, that you got to bear that? Man, that's heavy.
But not only for Eli, also Samuel.
Yes, because like I said, he's ministered. That's why he was afraid to even tell him.
No, I'm saying now he see the power of the Most High.
Right.
Firsthand.
Right. This is where when it says Eli didn't really know the Most High yet. He hadn't seen nothing like this. He didn't know the Most High could deal with a man like this, or he can go back and far and deal with the judgment and make this happen to this degree. That I'm not just going to get them now. I'm going to get them when they come back again, and when they come back again. Damn. When you know that, especially for all of us that's in this truth, and we know that the Most High can now carry that forward. When people say, yo, you only live once. No, you don't. No, you don't. Right? I'm not just living for right now. I'm living for what's to come too. Right? I don't want to just be wilding out and living up because I'm going to die. Once I die, that's it. Nah. I come back, I want to be shown favor. When I come back, I want to be given blessings. I don't want to do something that's going to jack me up for the time to come. And you don't even realize it. That's what the mind state of the world is right now.
But you have to, but you even do that. You have to believe that.
Exactly.
Lots of people in the world don't believe,
of course,
that they come back to the regeneration. So for you even to have that mindset to say, I'm not only living for today, I'm living for the, for the next lifetime, you have to really believe that.
Right. That's why when you read Wisdom of Solomon, the Apocrypha, the second chapter, Wisdom of Solomon, the second chapter gives those two different thought processes. You got some that are living for the moment. They're living for right now. They're only living for, once I die, I'm going to be like the thin air. I'm gone. I'm going to be some memory. Whereas the others, the righteous, we know that, no, that's not the truth. You will come back at a certain point in time. You will come back in this earth, and the Most High can either reward you or he can give you a judgment or a recompense for what you did before if he didn't judge you then. And even if he judged you then, like we see it right here, he can judge you then and then again and then again and then again until he sees fit.
So I guess we can read Exodus 20.
Yep, third and fourth generations are 20 and 4.
Right. So pretty much it ends the 10 Commandments.
Yep. But when you a son of Belial,
and
when you're a son of Belial, or you don't believe in the Most High, you into Catholicism, you into Islam, you're a Methodist, you're an atheist, you're agnostic. When you don't see this, when you don't have this foundation, you ain't considering those things, right? You don't know those things, so you're just gonna go about your merry way, following whatever type of culture or philosophy or doctrine or whatever it may be, and then you're far removed from what reality really is, which is just truth. Go ahead, Paquat.
and also it goes to people who believe in what they see more than what they know. Because when you believe in what you see, all you see is flesh and blood, and people die, and you ain't see anybody come back. But when it's what you know, it's about the spirit, because the Most High is not limited in time, in space, as well as the spirit is not limited in terms of time. So everything continue on, whereas the flesh, transport, or the flesh just go and then decompose and then transform into something else, but the spirit still go on. So if you believe in spiritually, then you're gonna know that people come back to a fourth generation. But if you believe based on flesh and blood, you're gonna have the same belief that you never see anybody come back. You don't believe it.
Okay.
So believing what we know is true versus what we see.
Done. So now rereading verse 19 again, it says, and Samuel, Shamuel Allah in the Hebrew, grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground, right? So meaning anything that Samuel, as a prophet, as a priest, a man of the Most High, spoke, everything came to pass with him, right? The Most High says he's the one that raises up these prophets. He'll send out the teachers, not these ones that proclaim themselves to be that. The Lord will do that. So when Samuel was now in that seat, everything he said came to pass that came to him from the Most High. Verse 20, and all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of Yahweh, right? A faithful judge, a faithful priest, faithful man of the Most High, right? So they saw his ascension, that he was going to be the next great prophet that was going to be within Israel, especially from what we just read, that the visions was not the visions was no open visions no more. Most High had that precious. It was only going to be with a select few. And now Samuel was the one that was selected by the Lord, and everybody recognized that. Verse 21, last verse. And the Lord appeared again in Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord. So just like during the time of Moses, when the Most High reveals himself in a burning bush, right? He'll send an angel or the spirit to go and communicate or speak or show certain things to a prophet. Just like when we read in Second Ezra for the Friday night class, how the Lord came in a bush. It wasn't a burning bush, but it was a bush, right? The Most High will appear. He can come in the form of a man, send an angel Raphael or Uriel as a form of a man and sit and talk with you, right? He can actually send the angel itself down and talk to you. He could speak to you from the heavens. He can appear in any different kind of way that he wants. And then now, once you have that happen as an individual, man, you're on a high level where you now know that the Most High is dealing with you. Like Samson's parents, right? Samson's parents came, the angel came and spoke to them, and they dealt with them one-on-one. Imagine if an angel came and revealed himself to you and said, listen, I'm Gabriel. Let me let you know something, Anashah. In about another 3 weeks, this is what's going to happen, and you are going to do such and such. Right then and there, you know, yo, the Most High is dealing with me, man. He's dealing with me. If I was on at 37%, I'm now at like 89 because I know the Most High is dealing with me now. He just sent the angel to come and tell me something. We don't even have to have that now. We got the scriptures to give us that, because the Most High ain't dealing with everybody with this. Just like you said, most people don't understand just that dynamics of how our spirits come into earth. For you to know that, for you to know the true Lord, for you to know the true Christ, for you to know the true self, to know the events, the history, past, present, future, Most High dealing with you. And you got to recognize it as such and take advantage of it and not let it languish and go away, right? Hold it precious. Like they say, buy the truth and sell it not. Don't give this away for nothing. There's been some people who have given away the truth for work, right? They got a good job, or the time that was needed to get that job, they put this to the back burner. Or they got a family, right? They had met a new wife or a husband, and they wanted to pour themselves into that. They sold the truth for the family, the relationship, right? To settle and nest in society. Or you sold the truth for a name, right? Recognition. Can't do that with this. You can still have those things, but this is going to always, or should be always, the priority. All right. So that's the last verse as we're about to get into moving forward. What the Most High now is going to be doing with Samuel as the prophet of Israel, and then things that now is going to now shift from off of Samuel specifically to what now is going to happen with Israel. All right. So next week we'll be back in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapters 14 and 15. Again, 1 Corinthians chapters 14 and 15. And then right after following that, the new moon, I think if you got the new moon calendar, I think there's just at least the version I had, it should be a clerical error on it. It should be Monday night, the 31st. I think it says Wednesday, the 31st. There is no Wednesday, the 31st. I think it's just a clerical error. It should be Monday, the 31st for the new moon, right? Which will follow right behind the Sabbath service of next weekend. All right. So with that, Lord's will, everybody was able to get the understanding of these two chapters. If there's any more follow-up questions that we may have about certain things, about the forever and about, how the Most High deals with judgment, about, the regeneration of the spirit, reincarnation, write those questions down, write them down, and bring the questions to the class so that we can collectively go through it a little bit more in detail. All right. Or any other questions that you may have. All right. So with that, I'll say Ashar Shabbat, happy Sabbath to the brothers and sisters. Lord's will, we're here to see each other in the upcoming classes. Be safe, stay protected out there. Don't tempt the Most High. And all you're dealing, not just with, the coronavirus, whatever. Don't tempt the Most High in anything, but walk with the Most High in everything that we do. All right. So with that, I say Shalom, Kahan Samak, and stay tuned for the closing prayers. 1 Corinthians 14, 15. Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Asherah Matalanawa Par Yahagapin Tuara Aman La Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. I madra upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushah, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Waha Alahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shamal Isle, Barat, Rapah, Magun, Wahakazayat, Bunya, Yasha Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabium, Kakama, Rabium, Da'aith, Rabium, Bayana, Rabium, Sabalanwa, Rabium, Amawan, Rabium, Aqua, Rabium, Ahabium, Rabium, Haganah, Rakhanaya, Wasalak, Ko, Kata Ayamnawa, Lahaakim, Wa Akiwath, Wa Yasha Allah, Thumb Yad, Wa Iwalam, Basham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Amun. English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters and Israel always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha Allah, Wabathya Saparian. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Achad. All right, English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, bless us and Israel in the house of books or schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. With that, again, we'll say Shalom, Ashar Shabbat, peace and blessings, brothers and sisters, and happy remaining Sabbath. Most High's will, we'll see each other during the upcoming week. Shalom.